All right, welcome everybody. If you're just joining us, this is your host, Abhi Kaushik, and we have 53 participants on the line. Let's bump that number up. Let's shoot for our target of 100 because, and I must apologize, there was a mix-up this morning. Our speaker today is actually going to be our usual speaker for Thursday, who is none other than Christion Sadler. Now, if you are new to the call or you have not been following along and you don't know Christian's story, Christian back in his young teens was actually a troublesome young man. He got kicked out of class a lot, and he says he got kicked out of almost every class after grade school. As he got older, he found himself in quite a bit of financial scarcity, working a daily wage job in steel fabrication, and started looking for other income generation opportunities. Around this time, he had just heard about real estate and the wealth opportunities it could create for him, so he started attending different guru events, but felt like he was really spinning his wheels, not going very far, until, of course, he found Renatus. He started getting around people that he wanted to be like, showing up early, staying late, and helping out wherever he could. And because of his consistency, his persistence, his determination, Christian has now been in the real estate business for over 13 years. He's done multiple real estate transactions that have netted over six figures. He is a PIT team member, a marketing leader, one of the founding team members of Team Elevate. And we're just very fortunate to have Christian as our presenter today. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over the mic to Christion Sadler. Good morning, Christian. How is your morning going today?
Good morning, Abhi. My morning is going great. The only thing that's not going well is my computer is about to die. So I may end up switching over to the phone for those of you that are on the line. If it goes quiet for a second, that's what's happening, and I'll let you guys know. But I want to jump right into things. And Abhi, I want to thank you for everything that you do before I start off, and just say that I'm grateful that you're part of the team, and really grateful that you continue to show up here and get these calls started off right and get those videos going for us so we have some good content to fuel our day. Thank you so much, Abhi. And we'll jump right into things here. And I'm going to introduce you guys to Eloy Losada today, because he's going to be taking over these Thursday calls for the next few weeks. And we'll bring him out here in just a little while. So let me first pull up the screen right here after I get rid of this video right here. All right. I'm going to switch over. If you guys remember last week, we had this whole list, right? This is the list of objections that you guys are getting, and we're going to jump right into them. We're going to get through them. We're going to get through them as quickly as possible. I may have to switch over to the phone, which means you guys won't be seeing this list anymore. However, we'll get through them all. So first objection, what have you done? And this is something that you're getting at the follow-up. Now, I don't remember who typed each one of these in, so you're going to have to remember for yourself if this was your objection. And some of you didn't give any objections, but this is going to relate for you. Now, this first objection for me is one of the easiest. Just tell the truth. Guys, to come over this as an objection, usually this is not even objection. This is truly somebody wanting to know what you have done. And so I know that Scott Rowe used to do a training, and maybe he still does, that was really powerful for this, where he said, simply keep a calendar. Keep a calendar that shows what you're watching in the classes, some of the insights that you're getting, what actions you're taking on. All right, I apologize for that, everybody. Hopefully you guys can still hear me on the line. And we're improvising today, it looks like. For some reason, I cannot get my cord to charge my computer right now. And so we're going to get into objections. Unfortunately, what that means is I don't have all your objections pulled up in front of me, so we're going to have to kind of freestyle this. Now, the first objection that I was just talking about was the objection of what have you done? And again, this is one of the easiest objections because usually it's really not an objection. And so if they say, what have you done? The easiest answer is just tell them, right? So the key is if you're taking action in your business, then it's really easy and simple to share, hey, this is what I've done. This is the class that I've been watching. This is the actions that I've been taking. These are the people that I've been talking to, right? And you can share the potential of what you're moving towards. Nobody expects you to be a Hall of Famer in your rookie season, right? They just want to know that you're gaining value. They want to know that you're seeing results. And for many of you, depending on which market you're in and which first exposure you see, you have a story from that very first exposure. In fact, I would dare say that, any of you, even if you have only been to one meeting and then that person after that meeting said, hey, you got to jump on these daily calls. I don't think that happens, but let's just pretend that it does. Well, on that very first meeting, guess what? If you learn about velocity banking, you can run your numbers and you've got a story, right? You can share that story. If you learn one tax saving strategy, you can do the math on that. And you can say, hey, just on what I learned, I figured out a way that I could save $24,000 on my taxes next year. That's a big deal for most people, right? So what have you done? Now, if this objection turns into, which I know that this was another objection on the list, if it turns into, well, when you are successful, then I will take a look at it. Or call me when you've made money, okay? Here's the thing. You got to call those people out on it. And you got to let them know, whatever I do has nothing to do with what you're going to do. I can tell you that right now. Because if you believe that me having success means that you can have success, guess what? I can introduce you to many, many, many people who are already having success. So the system works. And, I'm already on this path. The question is, are you going to allow the excuse of what I've done stop you from what you can do? Because quite frankly, if you have an excuse like that now, you're going to have another excuse in the future. So this is something that, I've shared with people. And you also have to understand, you can't get everybody, guys. So for sometimes when there's these types of objections, it's just simply an excuse. It doesn't matter if, if they said, I used to have a goldfish in high school. Any excuse is as good as any, right? So for them, you just have to, be okay with the fact that some people are going to excuse themselves out of success, right? However, the way to come out, the way to overcome this is, first of all, tell them what you've done. Share your success story. You have a success story even after the very first exposure, okay? All you have to do is share with them. And then take action in your business and share what you're doing. So what I think I got cut off at is talking about a training that Scott Rowe used to do. And he said, just simply keep a calendar. And in that calendar, note down what classes that you're watching, what insights you're gaining, what you're learning, what ads you're putting out, how many people you're talking to, and then you can talk to people about the potential of what's coming because of what you're doing, because of the actions that you're taking. So a lot of this has to do with your excitement and belief more than anything, which we covered on the first two calls about objections. All right, so that was that was a couple of objections that we covered there. So next objection And again, I'm not reading off the list, but I'm trying to go off of memory the best that I can. I did look over it a few times as I was running around the house this morning for, probably 20 minutes trying to get my computer to plug in and work. But another objection was I'm not ready to put in my order yet, and there was actually 4 or 5 different excuses for that were in the objections that we went over last week. And so some of that might have been, I don't know where the money is. I'm not ready to put in the order because, I want to wait until I get through this next semester of college. Hey, as soon as things lighten up at work, then I will get started. Well, here's what I found, folks. If people first of all, let's back up. If you overcome objections before the objections ever come up, this is going to help you a ton. So I ask a lot of questions early in the conversation about how serious are they about getting started in real estate right now. So when I'm sitting down for a follow-up especially, I sit down and I ask them, what the objection is, or what the objective is for what we're sitting down for. I have them paint a picture for me of what they're wanting to accomplish in the next 2 to 5 years, and I ask them, how serious are you about getting started on this path today? Because if they tell you in the start of your conversation, I'm committed to get this going, the sooner the better, the faster I can have success, the better, then it kind of takes out their excuse of, well, I'm going to wait until whatever it is, okay? And that doesn't mean that they're not going to bring it up, but it means you can call them on it. And you can say, Mr. Prospect, you told me you were serious about getting started on this. And I come from a place of compassion, folks. I don't call them out in a way that says, hey, you lied to me. Well, what do you mean? That's just such a discrepancy. Instead, I just help point it out in a nice, friendly way. So I had this recently where I had a guy, and he said, I'm just at this point in time in my life, I don't know, how I can come up with the $20,000. Now, I had prefaced the conversation. He said he was serious about getting something done. He said he had a few months before, college, was starting up again, and he wanted to get as much done as possible during that time frame. And then as we got further into the conversation, he started saying, oh, well, that's just, that amount of money right now is a big risk. And, my thing is, I've got, school coming up, and I've got, this and this. And he said, he just painted this story about how, if he just waits for the, for the next semester to be done, then that's going to free up all kinds of time for him. And, we went through, and I actually started backing down, and from the standpoint of, okay, I get it, $20,000 right now. You're not able to, to get through all those classes before before your schedule gets really, really busy, because he wasn't lying about that, right? But I said, how about starting here? How about starting here? And I worked my way down. We talked about, going with the advanced, and then we talked about getting the essentials. And, he just kept throwing up the same excuse. Well, I think that it's just better that I start later on. It's just better that I, start at this time. And I just had to share with him. I said, listen, what I've found is that most people who tell me they're serious about getting started and then find a reason not to get started now, thinking they're going to do something in the future, usually don't come back. And if they do, it's 4 or 5 or 6 years later, and they're mad at themselves because they didn't get started when they first found it. So I just simply don't want that to happen to you. I mean, if you can't put any skin in the game, it's hard for me to believe that you're actually serious about creating results. Does that make sense? And then I shut up. And guess what? He started coming around. And And now he bought his essentials. And after buying his essentials, now he's talking about, okay, I need to upgrade to my combo, right? And he's looking and figuring out ways to do that. So oftentimes it's about getting them started wherever you can get them started now, so that you can get them into the community, so you can get them around other people that are going to move them towards success. And so that's one. I guess I gave a few different ways to do it. First thing is you got to call them on what they're saying, and share it from a place of concern is what I usually do, right? So if somebody's saying, well, I definitely want to do this, but I need to wait for X, Y, and Z. And usually I'll share with them, and just a concern. I'll say, hey, listen, I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not denying that might be a better time. But what I've found is there is no right time. There is no time that is just right for doing something majorly different in your life. There's always going to be a reason that might hold you back. And what I found is the difference between people who make big things happen in their life and don't is that they don't allow those reasons to stop them from moving forward with what they truly desire in life. So I would just hate to see you come back 2 years, 5 years, or longer, come back to me and say, I wish I would have started when I first found this. So that's one thing to do is call them on it. Share your concern for them that they are not going to get started and that later on they're going to regret it. And then the other thing that I shared that, within this story of Jerson is that, one of the things you can do is if you just cannot get somebody to sign the dotted line on $20,000, don't be afraid to start stepping down and start saying, well, okay, I get it. It's going to take some time and some effort to try and find $20,000 right now. And I do always preface it. I always, say, trust me when I tell you that, you're going to get started and you're ultimately going to want to own all the education. But what if we started right now where we got you access to, the essentials, which is on that phase 1, and then we got you access to 2 of those vocational tracks. So you can focus in, on one strategy and get out there and take action on a deal. And, again, if they just come up with excuses or reasons or whatever it is that they're not going to start with the $8,000, then I can break it down further than that. And I can say, well, what if we start, what if we put down $4,000? We could actually get you access to all of the education, and you can make payments over time. What if we started you with, and you guys get where I'm going, and you can continue to step this down. Now, one thing I would suggest not doing is don't jump from $20,000 to $2,000, or even worse, don't jump from $20,000 to $550 down and $100 a month, right? Step your way, down, step by step through the different options that people have to buy. So, covered a couple objections in that. Do me a favor, if you're on the line and you had an objection that we haven't covered yet today, come on out and share, and I'm just going to address them one by one as we go. What are some of the objections that you're getting?
Christian, this is Joe to Interconnect.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, this is Ashley Garcia. One of the objections that I've received is that people have thought that this is a pyramid scheme when we talk about the IMA program.
Oh, perfect. Pyramid scheme. So this is an easy one. Same thing with MLM or, whatever it is, right? The first thing that I do when somebody says something like that is I ask them, what do you mean? Or if somebody says, hey, this is an MLM, or this is a pyramid scheme, I'll say, what do you mean by pyramid scheme? Or what is a pyramid scheme? And then I let them talk. And usually they go off on this tangent. right? And they say, it's where you got to enroll all your friends and your family, and nobody else, nobody actually really makes money except those people at the top, and yada yada yada. And you say, well, I understand where you're coming from, but I got to share with you. I can introduce you to people that literally started last year that are making incredible amounts of money. Some of them are surpassing those people, that have been in this business for years. So I'm not sure where you got the idea that is what it is, but we just simply don't fit into that category. Tell me more about what your concerns are, and then I'll get them to talk. And usually they'll share. And if you can get them to share, what it is that their biggest fear is, that's what you need to actually get out of the way. Their biggest fear is, something beyond, oh, this is a pyramid scheme. This is a, whatever. So, you just handle that straight on. We're not a pyramid scheme. We're not an MLM. And usually when I talk about MLM, I'll tell them, hey, listen, I don't have a problem with MLMs. I actually know professionals in the industry. But we simply don't fit into that category. The referral side of the business is strictly an option. Now, it's an option that most people ultimately, decide to utilize. Even if you came in here and just did real estate, there is a ton of money to be made. But don't you think it might be kind of greedy for you to start making that type of money in real estate and be unwilling to share it with the people around you that you care about? All right, Joe, I know you were trying to come out here as well. Come on out.
So I've been a handful of the last people that I've been working with. A lot of them have been saying like, oh, I want to go and I want to get a deal done before I do this. So, I mean, like that's one. And then the other one is like a lot of my guys that I've been working with that have said that, they're like, I've got the money to do this, but I would rather invest it in a deal that then I could take that money that I make on the deal and then do Renatus.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Got it. Yeah. I think most of us have probably gotten one or both of those. And if you've been in the business for any period of time, you've probably gotten both of them many times. So everybody has this. Everybody has that they want to do a deal before spending money. They want to make money before they spend money. And so you just got to kind of call them out on it and say that's like putting the cart before the horse. And so you have to think about it, Miss Prospect. If you were going to become a brain surgeon, would you go down? Would you go talk to the dean of the school and say, well, let me do this. Let me do a couple of brain surgeries to make some money, and then I can put that money into my education to learn how to do it. Of course not. And here's the thing. Of course, I know that's different. You're dealing with life, like dealing with, somebody's life. But this is about your financial life. And quite frankly, you could go do the deal. Let's say you go out there and you take that $20,000 and you put it into a piece of real estate. Whether you succeed or whether you fail, you didn't learn a whole lot. You just did a deal. And so through that, what I've found is many people that go down that route, in fact, I would say about 99% of them, ultimately lose money, or don't make a lot of money. And you have to ask yourself, how expensive of a lesson are you willing to take? Because real estate has no ceiling, but it also has no floor. And so you might spend $20,000 and then lose another $40,000 by doing it wrong. Wouldn't it make more sense to learn by other people's mistakes and successes who have been in the business for literally decades, some of them? And a lot of times you can overcome it just simply by talking sense with them, right? The other thing is sometimes you have to figure out if that's really the excuse. You have to say, is money the actual concern here? Like, I understand you're saying you have the money, but you'd rather put it into a deal. But you know as much as I do that that's risky to go spend that money if you're not educated in real estate investing. So what is it really? Is it about spending that money? Is that where your fear comes up? And if you can get down to the root of that fear, they're, and they share with you, yeah, that's a lot of money for me to spend right now. If I spend that, I don't have anything left in savings, yada, yada, yada. And you can say, well, what if we came up with ideas of ways that you could do it without spending your own money? And sometimes this is the way to overcome that objection is, hey, listen, you don't have to spend that money that's in your bank account. You should feel really lucky that you're in a position where you do have the money and you could, drop $20,000 and do this right away. But most people who have started with us don't. They never had the money starting. They had to go find creative ways to do it. So how about I share with you some of the most common ways that I've seen other people fund their education. And that's where you turn that circle and you go back to different ways of funding. What I found is oftentimes people get stuck on, they know their prospect has the money. And so that's what they're trying to go after. And it actually throws up red flags for their prospect because their prospect is saying, hey, I've worked my butt off to get that money and I'm not ready to let it go. And if you keep pushing them to spend their cash, you may have missed the opportunity to simply share with them other funding options and allow them to get started in a more comfortable way. Oh, I just saw a chat come in here that says, I can learn online. This one, again, is easy. I can learn all this stuff online. You know what? You're right. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. The question is, how long do you have to sift and sort through that information to figure out what's relevant and what's not? Because, going on the internet, it's like a free-for-all out there. So you could spend, hours, you could spend months, you could spend years going through information and then going and doing the research to find out what's relevant today, what's actually working. And, the whole benefit of Renatus is that you have that information up to date, gone over by legal counsel, and designed in a way that we as adults can learn and retain. And on top of that, you're surrounded by a community of people who are learning that information and putting it into practice. So you have others to help you, take what is information and turn that into results. So how long do you have? Right? And for some of them, again, that's just an excuse. Yep, you're right. Esther, most of that information is incomplete and it's a sales manual, right? I had somebody the other day, and he wasn't even my prospect, but I know him because I've met him, and he came down with a different IMA, and he decided Renatus is not his path. He's going to go find other ways to do it. And then he started asking me about what are some good books for real estate investing. And I said, he already read Rich Dad Poor Dad. We had already connected with him about that. And even Rich Dad Poor Dad is kind of a sales manual at this point, right? But that's the thing is I couldn't really refer him to any really great real estate books because what are most books out there? They're sales manuals, right? They are clever ways to engage people in information and give them some of the information, but not all of the information, in the hopes that they can turn around and sell them some sort of education. And as we know, with most of the guru programs out there, they're going to sell them information so that they can sell them more information, so they can sell them more information, so they can sell them more information. Oftentimes I'll just share my story when it comes to that, and I'll share with them, hey, listen, I spent money with different programs. And usually it was a little bit of money up front, and then they wouldn't deliver on what they said they were going to teach me. But they would say, if you just spend, this much more money, then you're going to get what you need to know. And when you go to that next course, when you get to that next coaching package, there's always something more to buy. Right? I've also had this, where somebody says, well, I can, there's lots of other ways for me to learn. I just want to see what else is out there. And oftentimes I'll introduce them to Tim Vreeland for this. Tim is one of my students, and that's what he did. That's what he said. And he started going to all the different local events, all the RIAs, all the, little workshops that were coming in town. He was spending $50 here and $100 there and $300 over here. And, quite frankly, he kept coming back to me and asking questions and realizing that he didn't know what he was doing. I actually saved him from getting ripped off. Ripped off is maybe a harsh word, but getting dumped garbage properties from a guy who ran one of the local RIAs, where he went down and he met him and he was talking about what he wanted to do, and this RIA leader said, well, how much money do you have access to? And he told him, I have $10,000 or whatever it is, and he said, oh, I can sell you one of my properties. And when he sent me the details on it, the property would not have cash flowed. There was no equity. It was just a garbage property. And, it also needed a bunch of work. And so, that's some of the things that you can share is, getting out there and trying to learn it the cheap way is actually oftentimes and most of the time the most expensive way. Wouldn't you rather just simply invest in your own education up front so that you don't have to invest in mistakes later on? All right, let's go with one more objection. What do you feel is an important objection that you want to know how to handle?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This is LaShawn in Chicago. One of my objections is that when I first started out, I was so excited. I was sharing everything. And so now those same people I've had some exposure with, in regards to just talking to them or coming across as kind of like commission breath and all that. So now it's like I have this list of names in the Renata database, and I'm like, I want to go back and try to tap into some of those. And one of the things was to send out a text and say, hey, I just was checking to see how you're doing. And, are you still interested in real estate investing? I don't know. I don't know how to go about it, but that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. So have you tried reaching out to any of them? Are you getting objections, or is it more, are you asking how to approach those people?
Probably how to approach them. We keep hearing about the warm market. Mm-hmm. And, don't ever give up until they buy or die. And, I'm not really a salesperson. I never really liked sales, but if it's something that I believe in, then, it's just like when you go to a movie, you share with everybody, you tell them and you want them to know about it. And then, of course, you hear the thing about, oh, you drink the Kool-Aid, that kind of thing. So, for me, I rather try to tap into the warm market again. And I have learned since I've been in Renata's that, everybody has a different level. So maybe they might not be interested in the education, but they might want to be a private lender, so that kind of thing. But I have, pretty nice sized list, and I keep adding to it and working on the ones that are new and not going back to the ones that are on my list.
Yeah. So
the more market.
Esther, the easiest thing to do is don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. If you've got a big list, just start calling people and talking to them. Ask more questions than you do telling. And this goes for any objection that we're dealing with as well. For those of you that are on the line, asking more questions is going to help with all of this. If you spend all your time telling and convincing, you're not going to have a lot of success. If you spend your time asking and relating, you're going to do a lot better. And so when you call these people, you can let them know, hey, Mr. Prospect, or hey, Mr. Warm Market, I'm calling you for two reasons. One's personal and one's business. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Oh, that's a good one. Get right to the point, because I have family that is like that. And I probably would be the same way if they were to call me. So.
Yeah, call them and say, hey, there's a couple things I want to talk to you about. One is personal, one's business. Which would you like to talk about first? If they say personal, then go into the personal stuff. Start asking them, hey, how's the kids? What's going on? I just really wanted to catch up with you and see what you've got going on in life. And then it's easy to turn the conversation. Once that part of the conversation is done, you say, hey, I did mention that I want to talk to you about business. Just curious, what's your interest in learning real estate investing? Or, hey, how, do you have a plan to pay off your house, faster? Whatever that conversation is that you're going to get into. If they say business, then get right into it. Say, hey, as you know, I've been working with a group of real estate investors, and I'm pretty excited about what's going on. I can't even explain to you, some of the success stories that I'm hearing about. But let me tell you about one. Share with them a story, and then say, do you have any interest at all in coming down and seeing what we're doing?
Okay.
Yes. Invite them down. Get them in front of the information.
That's a good opener, especially when I'm going back to people I've already, spoken with and the warm market. So thank you.
Yep, absolutely. All right, folks. I'm going to take just about a minute here, and I want to introduce you guys to Eloy Losada. So I had a trip planned, and I knew that I was probably going to be less engaged on these calls. And so I asked Eloy if he would like the opportunity to teach and train, and he took that on. My travel plans have changed, but your training plans have not changed. Eloy is a guy who his energy is infectious. I mean, he just always has a positive attitude. He always has just something nice to say. Witty things that he comes up with, and on top of that, he's succeeding in the business. He came in here with his wife, and they are a powerhouse couple. Not only are they succeeding, in the business, but they also help out a ton. They're constantly volunteering, for this community. And I've just seen him grow so much in his training and presentation skills. So Eloy, if you're on the line, why don't you come out and just share about 30 seconds of what these people should expect over the next few weeks.
All right, fantastic, Christian. That was an awesome training, and I love overcoming objections. That's such a great thing, because most of the objections are people just putting themselves in their own way, and we like to help people see past themselves to what they really want. So that's awesome. For you guys to expect over the course of the next 3 weeks, I've been planning some training, and it's really going to be some actionable stuff and a lot of mindset hacks, because if you guys don't know where I came from, I mean, think about right now in your life, that one guy in high school and middle school who always had a cloud over his head and it was raining, and he's had this victim mentality and he blamed everything on the whole entire world. That was me. And it's been a lot of mindset and a lot of self-development training that Renatus has helped me overcome those difficulties, and the same tools that I used, I'm going to pass on to you guys. So Christian, thank you for the introduction, and I look forward to training everybody over the course of the next few weeks.
Thank you, Eloy. And you guys are in for a real treat, and I'm excited to learn from Eloy as well. So thank you all for joining us here. Get out there and make it an awesome Thursday.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Yay, Eloy.